Welcome back to the Be Unexpected podcast with Jake Burnside and Wyatt Spalding. Today we're joined by assistant head Creighton basketball coach, Coach Steve Merfeld. Coach, how's it going?
It's going really great. I'm so excited to be on with you guys and chat back and forth. And our team's playing well right now. We got a big one tomorrow with the pink out, and in great spirits and looking forward to it.
Sweet. So, Coach, tell us a little about your story. How you got involved in basketball and your playing career?
Yeah, I was probably like in second, third, fourth grade. I became a manager for the high school sports teams, football, basketball, baseball. And in 1972, I was probably around, it was probably fourth grade by then. And our high school team went to the state tournament and actually won a state title. And I think at that point in time in basketball, and at that point in time, I kind of, believe it or not, at what, 12, 13 years old, decided this is what I'm going to do because I enjoyed so much of the interaction and the relationships that were formed with sports teams. So went on to the University of Wisconsin lacrosse. Had a good high school career. I did not play in college. Went to the University of Wisconsin lacrosse. Graduated from there in education. Went on to high school in the Milwaukee area for 2 years. Was the head basketball coach there, and then was fortunate enough to get a graduate assistant position for Jim Larinaga at Bowling Green in Ohio. Spent 10 years at Bowling Green State University. From there, went to be the head coach at Hampton University. Was there for 6 years, and from there was got the University of Evansville head coaching job. Was there for 5 years, and actually got fired from there as a head coach. Was fortunate to go to Bradley as an assistant coach. Was there for 4 years, and believe it or not, this is my 13th year here at Creighton, and that is extremely unusual for a head coach or an assistant coach to be in the same spot. The way that our, I guess our whole thing is set up now. I mean, you have to win or bring somebody else in. So very, very fortunate to begin year 13, and it's been a great ride.
So, Coach, when you went into coaching compared to now, how has it changed so much? I mean, you've seen like probably a bunch of change over the years in coaching, and what are some of the things you like about coaching now that you couldn't do back then, and what are some of the things you miss about when you first went into coaching compared
Yeah,
to
I think my first year in college coaching was actually the first year that the 3-point line came in, and obviously you guys, your whole lives probably remember the 3-point line, but that was a major change, and nobody really knew how to take advantage of it. Whereas, what are we now, 30 years later, 35 years later, actually, it's what the game's all about. It's figuring out ways to make 3-point shots because you get more points for a 3-pointer, obviously, than a 2-pointer. So that's been a change and an adjustment. I think the other thing that probably has changed a little bit more is all these athletes, the expectations that are put upon them because of social media and the different things are unreal, and they're really hard for them to deal with, whether it be family, friends, fans. Everybody has an inward to these athletes, whether it's good or bad. And I think that has really affected their individual attitude and performance. I mean, we have so many mental health issues, and that's a big reason why. So I don't like that part of it. The thing that I got into this profession for and continue to is the relationship side of it. I always wanted to, as I mentioned early, the relationships that what were they at the time, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, how they took care of me as their student manager. I thought that was really cool. And, that's why I got in, and that's why I continue to be involved.
Yeah, you hear a lot of coaches, retiring like Roy Williams and Jay Wright, and a lot of it is you hear the NIL or the transfer portal, but a lot of it I'm sure is just building relationships. So is that the main thing that's really kept you in the coaching, because you've been with Bradley, Evansville, Bowling Green, and Creighton. So is it mainly the relationships with the young guys and the other coaches?
Yeah, for me, it is. I mean, I think
Mm.
obviously, everybody is different, but for me, the relationships mean more. The mentoring, the watching a young man grow from, we get them 17, 18 years old, and you guys can probably relate to how much you grew from 18 to 25. And for me to have an impact on our student athletes in that regard, and see me as a father, as a husband, as a community person, I think is really important. They all have role models, whether they're pro athletes or athletes that they look up to, obviously their parents, but also they have outside influences that affect their lives in great ways. And that's who I am. And I enjoy that part of it.
Nice. So coach, what was it like? You were coaching at Hampton, right? And you guys
Mhm.
upset the number 2 seed Iowa State. I mean, that had to be way up there in your coaching career.
Yeah, it was a really cool experience. And in some ways, Wyatt, it seems like it was yesterday. And in other ways, it seems like it was, 50 years ago. But great experience. I had a really good basketball team at Hampton University at the time. But more than anything, and you guys can relate to this with your needs and what you've went through, Jake, is you got to believe, and that team totally believed that they were going to win. And we're devastated. We got beat by Georgetown in the second round, and we're devastated when they lost. So it really wasn't a surprise to us. I think to the outside world it was, but a great experience, and something that we'll treasure for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
So the transition from the Big East, I'm sorry, the Missouri Valley to the Big East, you were with Coach McDermott when you guys did that, right?
Correct. Yep.
And what's that?
I was here from day one, actually.
Day one? Okay.
Yeah.
So what's that been like? Obviously the recruiting is different, the travel is different, but you're still pursuing great basketball players. But what is so different than playing the Missouri Valley versus the Big East?
I think, looking back on it, and we were actually just talking about this the other day. Father Lannon was at our game Wednesday night, and he was the president of Creighton University at the time. And he had a big influence on us getting into the Big East tournament. But maybe even a bigger influence than Father Lannon was Doug McDermott. The fact that, he was a player of the year candidate as a junior. And Doug, you look back on that team, Grant Gibbs, Ethan Rogge, Jahans Manigat. I mean, those guys had no reason to win Big East games, but they went 14-4 in our inaugural year of Big East. And obviously without that group, that the transition period would have been a whole lot different and a lot harder, but they got us off to a good start. And, from there, other recruits and our style of play, people were attracted to that. And, every year it's different. And you mentioned it earlier with NIL and the transfer portal. What's next? What else are we going to have to overcome to be successful? And you can't control those things. You can only control the controllables. And that's what Coach Mack has, preached here from day one. So we're going to just continue to do the best job that we can with the resources and the athletes that we have.
What was it like having your best player? His dad is the coach, so I bet that was a great feeling for both of them. But also, like, did they ever butt heads because it's father and son? Did they not let that get in the way of like the team? Because on the court, you couldn't even tell. Like,
Yeah,
they probably get along all the time.
I think that the maturity level that Doug had, coming in, and obviously that comes from his parents. both Doug and Greg and Teresa. Doug was the middle child of three, and raised them right, and they were gracious of things. And one of the things that Doug said early on in his career to his dad or his coach was, when we're on the basketball floor, I'm not your son. I'm one of these guys, and I don't want any special treatment. I don't want them to hold back anything, because kids are going to bitch about the coaching, and then that's just part of it. But he was mature enough to come to his father and tell him that, and then tell the rest of the team that I'm one of you. When we're here, I'm a Creighton student athlete just like you. Now, when we go out to dinner or whatever, then he can be my dad. So it was very mature on his part to do that. And I think he immediately earned the respect of his teammates, even before they knew how good he was.
That's really cool that he did that. Through your coaching career, you've worked under and with a lot of great players, assistant coaches. But right at the beginning, when you first got the job with Bowling Green, was there, or even before that in high school, was there like a mentor you had in your life that really kind of helped you out, or you'd give a call to, or something like that?
Absolutely. It's actually a college professor of mine, Bill Terry, who was the baseball coach at Wisconsin Lacrosse. And then he retired from that by the time I went to college. And he was like our student teacher representative or advisor. He would come out and observe us and tell us, what was wrong, what was right, whatever. And I ended up developing a great relationship with him. He ended up teaching swimming lessons at his pool for 3 summers. And recently he passed away, which was very, very difficult. But yeah, we all have people that have affected our lives in certain ways. And he was the first. I think, my first college job was at Bowling Green. I think my basis of coaching comes from Jim Larinaga, who is now the head coach at the University of Miami. And then I always looked up to Dean Smith at North Carolina and Tom Izzo at Michigan State. And then as you go on in your career, you learn to adapt and trust who you are. And you can't be somebody else, but you have to have a base. And I think that, those people really helped me establish that base.
So kind of the same question, but so you had coaches, but then was there any players that made a huge impact on you by either just the way they played, showed up in practice, or played in games that you were just extremely happy to coach, because not just because of the basketball player they are, but the person they are?
Right. I think, there's probably a couple on every team that I've ever coached, but a couple stand out for sure. The first is a young man by the name of Michael Huger, who is now the head basketball coach at Bowling Green. He was a point guard for us and went overseas, and he actually tells people and has told me that I'm the reason that he got into coaching. So that's special, that you've had that kind of an impact on a young man. Over the years, the Hampton team, there's a young man by the name of Tommy Adams, who was our point guard as well. That was special, and it's great watching him become a father and the things that he's teaching his kids now. And then, you move through your career. There's a young man at Evansville by the name of Jason Holsinger. It's kind of interesting that we're doing this because all 3 of them are point guards. And maybe that was, that relationship that you had as the coach on the floor affected me more than anything else. But then, you come to, you end up here now at Creighton, and there's so many guys. I mean, it starts with Doug for sure. Jahans Manigat was special in that the energy that he brought, Grant Gibbs, Ethan Rogge. You can go down the line, Kyrie Thomas, Mitch Ballack, Tyshawn Alexander, Marcus Igorowski. I mean, there's just so many of these guys that you enjoy their success, as they move on with life and grow and get married and have children. And it's really a neat experience to watch that happen.
Yeah, that is a neat. I'm sure that was really cool for you, and that player who's the coach at Bowling Green said because of you,
You're right.
Like because of what you did and the relationship we had, I got into coaching. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't even recruit him. Somebody else
Yeah.
recruited him, but he's one of those young men that you're attracted to,
Yeah.
because of who they are. So
Yeah. The basketball season is long and then the recruiting season is long and it's a grind. I was a student manager at UNO and with Coach Hansen and I saw it firsthand. And I always wondered like these coaches, how do you between like prep and scouting and how do you just keep it going and going? And so like what really stirs your spirit? I know you said the relationships, but your other things like your family or other activities that help you just keep going throughout the year.
well, I think first and foremost, you have to have family ties for sure, and you have to have a spouse that just, totally is supportive of you and what you're doing. And then, to get through the grind, as you spoke of it, I think the competitiveness, the opportunity to win, that's what drives most of us. I mean, yeah, you kind of mentioned it. You have to enjoy your work to be successful. And if you're not enjoying it, then you should probably find something else that you do enjoy. But I've been doing this for 37 years now at the Division I level, and I haven't come to work a day in my life. It's just fun. It is what it is. Now losing isn't fun, obviously. So you have your lows at times. But the opportunity to come to work and work with young men has been a dream come true.
So you talk about winning and losing. So how do you guys like get the team so you don't fall in the hype? Because like this year, guys, we're talking about Creighton going to the Final Four, which they still have a shot, and anybody's got a shot because the tournament hasn't even started. They were talking about Creighton going to the Final Four, and you guys start out 6-0, and you go 0-6, and now you're back on track. How do you keep the team like positive even through the negative times? I know when going 0-6.
It's a great question, and I think that certainly doubt crept in for everybody. Is this team as good as the procrastinators said they were? We felt like we were. We had some factors that certainly contributed during that tough stretch, but what we've done and what this team has been able to do is they've taken that adversity, and because of that adversity, they've become closer and become better, which is going to help us in the long run. And it's not necessarily, we're going to win every game from here on out. Probably not. But it certainly has toughened us up and brought us back to some reality about, how hard things are. And adversity sets in at any time, as you guys know, and you have to be able to deal with it in a positive way. And if you deal with it negatively and, this sucks and that, then your mind starts really believing that, and it becomes harder and harder to get out of that rut. So I don't think there's a button that you can push one way or the other to get out of it. You just have to, as Jake said earlier, you just have to stay with that grind and trust that the process is going to get you where you want to get.
Yeah, for sure. When you guys played Arkansas at the end of the season, I still think that's one of the best games of the year. That was
Yeah,
a
everybody
big
talks
game.
That was
about
fun to watch.
Yeah, everybody talks about that game. The other games that kind of come to mind for me, I mean, obviously we lost the Arizona game.
Yeah.
That was a tremendous college basketball game as well. And then as I just came out of a staff meeting preparing for Xavier. Our game at Xavier was a high quality, just a great basketball game early in January. And we expect, the same tomorrow, where it's going to two very, very good basketball teams competing at a very, very high level. And, hopefully we figure out a way to come out on the winning edge on this one.
Yeah, for sure. So during the season and everything, um, who on the team would you say is like really kind of like help the team in a way that you didn't think they could, like whether it's defense, offense, just cheering on the bench, who has
Yeah.
really stepped up?
Yeah, I think I think Baylor Shireman was certainly put in kind of a difficult position initially, just trying to fit in. I mean, not from a basketball standpoint, but, you're returning 4 other starters and he's the 5th guy, coming from South Dakota State. I mean, I think our guys recognized early on that he was a very, very good basketball player, but he's the kind of guy that wants everybody else to be happy and didn't want to step on anybody's toes. And I think it took him a while before he totally accepted, a leadership position with this group, and has moved forward. And I think we've become a lot better since he has done that. And, interestingly enough, Coach McDermott, about, I don't know, right, maybe before the conference season began, met individually with the guys, and they, to a man, basically said that Baylor and Ryan Nemhart need to be our leaders. They need to step up and be the guys that are vocal. And those 2 guys have done a wonderful job with that ever since that meeting. And, it's something that I think we knew was going to be an issue because we were so spoiled with the way that Grant Gibbs controlled the locker room, and Mitch Ballack controlled the locker room. And then Ryan Hawkins came in last year. And, those leadership qualities sometimes are not natural. They have to be given and worked at. And I think that's where Baylor and Ryan Nemhart are now, is they're working at being better leaders. And because of that, I think you've seen that we've played a lot better.
Yeah, and you can see the growth and ever since that. And like right now, you guys went to that stretch, and you guys, it seems like you're on the path, and because of the people stepping up and stepping into the roles.
Exactly. I mean, it takes a team, and I don't think our scout team, gets enough credit. I mean, we just played St. John's Wednesday night, and actually our scout team played St. John's better than St. John's played St. John's on Wednesday night. So those guys are so important to a program, whether it be in the locker room, on the court, off the court, whatever it is. You have to have, guys like that are just warriors and put the team first.
Coach, what's it like coaching in the Garden during the Big East tournament? I mean, every conference tournament's big, but you guys get to play in the Garden. How cool is that?
It's really neat. I think we've been to 4 final games so far in the 12 years that we've played in the Big East tournament. We've never knocked the door down with the championship. But yeah, I mean, that's the Mecca. I think that's what you dream about, as a coach, given the opportunity to coach in the Garden. It's an incredible building. It's so much bigger than what it looks, in terms of the different levels that the building has. And obviously, it goes down underground and then, way up high. But yeah, tremendous experience, and one that we hope we can knock the door down at some point in time and bring home a championship.
So one last question. What's Coach McDermott like outside of practice? He seems like he's a pretty fun guy on the sidelines, but what's something that you get to see that not everybody else gets to see?
He loves to golf.
Okay.
I mean, we just had what we play? I think we played maybe on a Sunday. We had an 8-day layoff, and we took some time off with the team as well, because it was our first break. We, having to play on Christmas Day, we really didn't, guys didn't get to have a break. So we took 2 or 3 days off right after that game, and Coach Mack actually got away and went to Arizona to play some golf and relax, and at the same time work, for sure. But a couple of days of that. But he loves to golf. He loves to entertain. He loves to be around people, and I think that's why he's really one of the most successful college coaches in the business, because of his ability to relate to anybody at any time.
Do you golf too? Do you like golf?
Love to golf, but I don't have to golf. Some people have to golf. I enjoy golfing, but I don't have to do it. And, there's times where, if you're committed to golf, I mean, you're talking about, if you're playing 18 holes, you're talking about 5 hours out of your day.
Yeah.
And, I have my wife and I have 2 children. Lauren is a second-year law student here at Creighton, and Andrew is a junior here at Creighton. And, obviously when you have children, they take up your time and you don't golf as much as you used to, because we golfed a lot before kids. And now we're getting back into it now that the kids are kind of out on their own.
Mhm. I thought I read it online, but is your son on the team?
He was on the team as a freshman.
Okay.
He was a very good high school player at Scott Catholic.
Nice.
And it was the COVID year. And he just kind of decided, I was very mature on his part. He just said, I'm not getting anything out of this. I love it. I'm just, I know I'm never going to play. And I think he's a very social individual. I think he, missed the time away from his friends more than anything. But I was really, proud of him for stepping up and saying that, because I don't think it was very easy for him to do that.
Being a coach at a D1 level, were you able to go to your kids' high school events when they played, or was it hard because you had to be gone recruiting or you had a game?
Yeah, it was really hard. But yeah, for the most part, you probably get to, I don't know, 50, 75% of the games. I remember Andrew's senior year at Scott was the year that the Big East tournament got called at halftime of the game. So I was able to actually get on a flight that afternoon and was back here for the state championship game, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you guys remember that? They were like the only sporting event that made Sports Center.
Yeah, I remember that. I was working and the news, like it's ABC Fox News, and they had Trump going, but before that, it was the Creighton game. They like showed clips and they showed like what their refs went out and did the thing.
Yeah, but then the state tournament was like the only thing going on. And
yeah, that was on
cool was
ESPN.
that?
Yeah.
It was really cool because they, as a sophomore, they got beat in the championship game by York. And then as a junior, they got beat in the semifinal. Both these games went overtime. They got beat by Pius as a junior. And then the senior year, they ended up winning it, which was really sweet. I mean, there's a lot of things that you enjoy as a parent, but that has to be one of the best.
Do you get more nervous coaching on the sidelines or sitting in the stands watching your kids play?
Definitely sitting in the stands. As a coach on the sidelines, you have a little bit of control, of what's going on. But when you're a parent sitting in the stands, and I think every parent would admit this, they just want their child to be successful, in any way, whatever that is. And everybody can't be. You're going to have some wins and you're going to have some losses. But certainly, children bring a lot of joy to your life, and our kids have certainly done that.
Definitely. Well, Coach, thanks for joining us on Be Unexpected. Good luck this Saturday against Xavier, and then on Wednesday against Seton Hall. Which game is the home game? The Seton Hall or Xavier game?
Xavier. Xavier's our annual pink out
for
cancer. So it's on CBS.
Oh, dang.
At
Awesome.
11 o'clock. So it'll be a great atmosphere, and I know our guys are ready for the challenge.
Sweet. Well, if you're in Omaha or even Lincoln or wherever, go to the Creighton game and see Creighton beat Xavier this weekend, and then tune in on TV on Seton Hall. So good luck, Coach.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you.